Good evening. This October the 15th Board of Aldermen meeting is hereby called to order. I'd ask Alderman Gil Earhart if he would lead us in our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead. Please stand.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Most gracious God and our Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for your grace and your mercy. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful fall weather that we've anticipated. And Lord, most of all, thank you for your hand upon this city, the way that you bless those who work here and our citizens. Lord, tonight I lift up a special prayer for those who've been affected by two hurricanes back to back, that you would be with those who've lost loved ones, lost property. And Lord, thank you, Lord, for sending the angels of mercy and power line people and volunteers and those who go to the rescue. I also pray tonight, Lord, for peace in the Middle East, that people would be reasonable and work that out. Thank you, Lord, for the provisions that we have, and again, for your protective hand over this city. May the decisions we make tonight please you and bless them. In these things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Stewart, would you conduct roll call?
Aldridge. Here. Collins.
Here.
Dickerson.
Here.
Earhart.
Here.
Hamilton. Here. Henderson. Wallace.
Here.
All present except Alderwoman Henderson. Happy birthday to her on her trip with her daughter. She did advance notices, so hope she has a great birthday. Board, you have before you the minutes from the last Board of Aldermen meeting. I've had those through the weekend. Any questions on those minutes or any motions? This would be the minutes of the October the 1st, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Alderwoman Hamilton, motion to approve. Is there a second? Second, Alderwoman Aldridge. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Just as a reminder, this meeting is live streamed on YouTube and also recorded for playback. And also a reminder to the board, as of even the last ward meeting Monday night a week ago, citizens still cannot always hear, so they've asked that we make sure we use the microphones and lean into the microphones. And I'm going to ask Ms. Stewart that if at any point somebody makes a comment or gives information, if you cannot hear, simply raise your hand so that we can ask that person to repeat, because as close as you are, if you can't hear, obviously the audience can't hear, so need to make sure everybody's being heard. Continuing down the agenda, Mayor's update. September the 23rd was the final farmers market this year, held at City Hall, a successful year. Community litter pickup was last Saturday, had 7 to 10 volunteers. Thank you, Jennifer and Jay, and the people that worked that. Police and fire were there as well. This Saturday is on 10/19 is our senior citizens craft fair at the senior building from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 10/26 is our drug take back, our pharmaceutical drug take back, and our community shred day at the police department on 10/26 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Movies Under the Stars has been a big success. 200 plus people every night, every Thursday night. So that's going to continue through 10/31. And that's when we have our trunk or treat in Old Town, plus the final Movies Under the Stars would be that Thursday night. You see the stats before you from Human Resources. I won't cover all those, but a lot of things going on as far as candidates testing and new hires, purchase orders, et cetera, down that line. So just to keep you familiar with what's going on with the city staff. More detailed update will be coming for the first meeting of November to give you updates on different projects that may be in the works. Any questions? Hearing none, the consent agenda, you have that as well. Items 1 through 28. Items 1 through 28. Any questions on the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Alderman at Large Collins, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderwoman Hamilton. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Planning Commission old business. This is a public hearing date for consideration of application to amend the project text for the preserve at Cedar Bluff PUD submitted by Henry Porter, W.H. Porter Consultants, PLLC, on behalf of Jeffrey King, Meridian Premier Homes. The request is to reduce the minimum heated square footage of the 66 townhome units in Area 2 from 2,000 square foot to 1,800 square foot. The 6.55 plus or minus acre subject property is zoned R3, planned residential development, and is located northeast of the intersection of Chalet Drive and French Fort Drive. Public hearing date was set for this date on September the 17th. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman, before you is a request to consider an amendment to the project text for the preserve at Cedar Bluff, which will essentially consist in a reduction of the minimum heated square footage of the required townhome area. So this applies only to the townhomes, not to the detached single-family homes, from 2,000 square feet to 1,800 square feet. So basically, this is a request to reduce the heated square footage area of these townhomes by 200 square feet. Bit of a background to where we are as far as this particular project is concerned. The Preserve at Cedar Bluff Plan Development Project text and the master plan, which is shown before you, was approved by the Board of Aldermen back in July of 2020. It entitled the entire 41 acre at the time to be developed for 116 housing units or residential units. 50 of them were single-family detached and 66 were townhomes. Those townhomes were to be constructed maximum of 4 units per building, and there were 2 3-unit buildings. Area 1, which essentially consisted in the single family, had public streets. So all of this area, these are all public streets. While Area 2, where you have the townhomes, has private streets gated. So you have a gate at this particular entrance, and there is another gate at this entrance into Area 2. The project text contains development standards, including setbacks, minimum sizes of lots, minimum size of housing units, heated areas. All of those are specified in the project text that was approved by the board back in 2020. The application before you proposes to amend that project text that was approved in 2020, as I did mention, to reduce the heated square footage minimum requirement for the townhouse area from 2,000 square feet to 1,800 square feet. So that is essentially, that reduction will apply only to this Area 2. Subdivision plats for both the single-family phases, which is this area. So on this plat, anything shown here in green, the final plat has been recorded. In the line shown here in green, the final plat has been recorded. This particular area, the final plat has also been recorded where you have the houses already constructed. In the city, until the final plat is recorded, we cannot issue a building permit. So immediately you see a house on it, that's usually a sign that the final plat in those areas have been recorded. Subdivision plat for phase 1, for the first phase of the townhouse, that is 32 lots for 8 4-unit buildings, was also recorded March 6, 2023. The same applied to the single family with 0 lot lines. So often one we hear of this 0 lot line when you have smaller lots in the city. Citizens often think that means 0 lot lines. No. 0 lot lines really apply in cases of townhouses where the building walls constitute lot lines. The preliminary plat for the second townhouse phase was approved March 21, 2023. Infrastructure, roads, and utilities have not yet started, and that will be in this area that has not yet been constructed. The project text amendment, there was a project text amendment back in January 17, 2023. That's just about a year, more than a year ago. which approved a reduction in the heated area for 16 of the 50 single-family homes from 2,200 square feet to 2,000 square feet. So in January of last year, you did approve a reduction in the minimum heated area of the houses in the detached single-family area from 2,200 square feet to 2,000 square feet. So there was a 200 feet reduction. So I did mention the approval today, or the application before you today, applies only to the townhouse areas. That is this area shown here in yellow. Those will be the buildings that this approval will basically apply to. That approval, there were about 16 of those homes which you basically approved the reduction for, shown there in the stars. A number of things were unchanged at the time, back in January 2023. One, the width of the units remained 25 feet. Width of buildings remain unchanged. The requirement to have a two-car garage on each of the units, that remained unchanged. The requirement for 75% brick requirement remained unchanged. The basic floor plan, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath with bonus room, flex space over the garage, that remains unchanged. The change that was approved included small square footage, would include small square footage. This is really what is being requested of the board today. So the width of the units, that would not be changed. The two-car garage requirement, that would not be changed. The 75% brick, that would not be changed. And the basic floor plan, that is not requested to be changed. The request before you today, a couple of things that will change would include smaller square footage of most of the buildings from the second floor. So these changes will really apply to the second floor of the buildings and not to the first floor. The second change will involve staggering the front of these townhomes. So if you look at the design that is currently on the books, that was approved in 2020, the developer himself, although he was required to only have units that are minimum 2,000 square feet, he actually, went ahead and proposed 2,414 square feet. Now, of course, today he's reducing that to minimum 1,838 square feet. But in the text, that will be the actuality on the ground. But in the text, it will read a reduction to 1,800 square feet if this change was approved. So in 2020, what was approved as far as the buildings are concerned, you had the front facade of those homes, all of them basically on the same line. And this change will kind of stagger them, and by moving some of those units to the back, it avoids a monotonous look, and it also provides additional setbacks so you don't have cars overhanging the sidewalk from those garages. The 2023 amendment also increased the front setback to extend driveway, as I just mentioned. Also some increase in streetscape and higher ceilings. The Planning Commission, when it first heard this application back in August, it decided to table it and require the applicant to come back. The purpose per the applicant for which he is requesting this change is that he believes it will be easier to sell this, it's more marketable to a consumer, but it's going to offset the cost of that by providing additional amenities and also including moving that money into increased homeowner association dues. You have multiple common open spaces in this subdivision. You have private streets, you have gates. The homeowners' dues to maintain that infrastructure is somewhat high. He has added another amenity in this particular subdivision, which the Planning Commission did require that this application before you should be accompanied with. And as such, he has added a pickleball court, so he can speak more to this when he is called to the podium to explain the change. So to ensure construction in a timely manner, the amenities depicted in Exhibit 1 shall be substantially completed prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued for any unit in the third townhouse building. That was a condition imposed by the Planning Commission. As I did mention, the justification for the proposed change, so this would be the building design. The justification, you have a plan that better meets market demand. Secondly, you lower the purchase price to offset higher HOA dues because of gates and private streets and amenities and common open spaces that are expensive to maintain. So if a buyer has to pay less to buy a house, then you can move that money in the pocket of the buyer to higher HOA dues to provide for the maintenance of these common open spaces. There is need to diversify the city's housing stock that was provided for, stipulated in the comprehensive plan. Something that may be worth mentioning as far as this is concerned. Before this piece of property was rezoned to this development, this planned development back in 2020, it was actually zoned R4, which is multi-family rental. It permitted rental apartments. The developer did not want to build rental apartments. That is why, and the city maintained the same number of dwelling units that a rental apartment would have permitted on over those 20 acres. That's how we ended up with this particular development. That's important because sometimes there have been a concern that by reducing these units may end up being rented. One could say if he really wanted to rent these units, he had opportunity to do so when the property was zoned R4. The abutting homes to the south in Chateau Ridge are 1,000 to 1,500 square feet, and what he's proposing will be minimum 1,800 square feet. So it is still higher in terms of house unit sizes than what you have in Chateau Ridge. The Planning Commission at its meeting on September 10 did consider this application and unanimously voted to approve this particular application and stipulated that to ensure construction in a timely manner, the amenities that are depicted, the speakable courts, all that social infrastructure for the subdivision shall be substantially completed prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued for any unit in the third townhouse building. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Assam. Board, do you have any questions regarding the staff report? Before the applicants invited up, I'd like to share a couple things. First, I consider the developers and the managers business friends, business associates. Mr. Burns, Mr. and Ms. King in the audience, I consider them very reputable. They do a great job. You've seen some of the work they've done, and I have as well, high quality. But I just want to make a couple points, and I want to make it so that they would have an opportunity to rebut the concerns that I have. When this was approved back in July of 2020, before I was elected to this position, I opposed the building of this subdivision, and this was partly the reason why. The 66 homes, excuse me, the 50 homes that have been approved, once we've already had a reduction in size in 16 of those. If you look at the ones that have sold, probably 14, thereabouts, 16. If you go to the tax roll, you'll find that over half of those are still under Meridian Properties. So they may be lived in by somebody, but they're owned by Meridian Properties, AKA they're a rental or a lease house. If you look up Meridian Development on their website, a nice website, it says, why Meridian Property Management? In the greater Memphis area, and that's us, whether we like it or not, we're in the greater Memphis area, Meridian is the leading provider of built-to-rent single-family properties. So this is the first ever townhouses approved by this board or by any board in the city of Olive Branch in 151 years. So the very first set of townhouses have never been built. The slab's been poured for many months, I'm gonna say maybe a year, and they haven't been constructed, but we're already hearing that they won't sell. And I just have difficulty in understanding that whenever, if you take $155 per square foot, and that may be high in some people's opinion or low in some people's opinion, a 2,000 square foot home or these townhouses would be $310,000. 1,800 square foot townhouse in the same market, $279,000. So if I can qualify for a $279,000 house, very likely I can qualify for a $310,000 house. My concern is that these will be all or vast majority rental homes, and that's what's being built here. The board has historically had not a total no, but at least a disdain for apartments in this city because our residents don't want apartments in this city. These townhomes are simply a way to have those apartments, but they're not called apartments because they're not zoned as apartments. They're zoned as townhouses, and I just want you to understand, if you prove this, that more will come, more will be built, and there'll be more rentals. They tout on their website, which again is a great website, that 50% of the properties in the Memphis area are rental homes. That's what brings this business in here. We don't dislike rentals. We don't dislike renters. We dislike homes that are going to detract from the property value of other people's homes. We have the lowest rate of any city in DeSoto County of rental homes, considerably lower than some other cities. And the more of these that get approved, the more that get made smaller and smaller and smaller, that are built for one thing, or excuse me, sold for one thing and never built, trust me, they're gonna be rentals. I've lived it. I've had one in another city. They all start out very nice, townhouse row. All of them are brand new, pastel colors. 5, 6, 8 years later, 75% are rentals, and you sell and get out of there. So I want everybody to make all the money they can make, but at the same time, I don't want to see these neighborhoods degraded. I know Chateau Ridge may have 1,000 to 1,500 square foot homes to the south, but I also know the homes to the east are anywhere from 2,500 square foot to 4,500 square foot. So they may not be abutting, but they're close. And you affect people's property values when we let down, we let the sizes get smaller, and we've never seen one built to sell. There's never been a townhouse sold in the city of Olive Branch. But we get some approved, and now we're asked to make them, or y'all are asked to reduce them in size. I just want to say that before the applicant has a chance to rebut that and come forward with anything that the board needs to hear from the applicant. Mr. King, anything for the board?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeffrey King, 9186 Highway 4 West, Senatobia, Mississippi. Mayor, board, thank you for your time. Looks like I have some work to do here. We're here today to discuss a request I submitted to improve the quality and marketability of the townhome section in the Cedar Bluff PUD. The goal of this request is to create an exciting living experience for the residents that includes pickleball courts, professional common open space, private yard lawn care, and a dog park, all within a gated private community. Creating these amenities and providing these additional services to the subdivision will come at a cost both to the developer in the form of construction costs and to the buyers in the form of HOA fees. More amenities, more HOA fees. Thus my request to reduce the minimum size of the townhomes from 2,000 square feet down to 1,800 square feet. I'm doing this to help compensate for the increased HOA costs that the homeowners will have to pay to have these additional amenities. Our goal here is to keep the cost of ownership for our townhomes, the mortgage and the HOA fees together the same as it was before this proposal. In other words, we want to target the same people that have the same buying power, same buying wherewithal to be buyers of these homes. So financially, nothing's changed here. Little smaller home, little less expensive home, a lot more amenities, and a higher HOA fee. You add that together, their mortgage payment is exactly the same. And that's why we targeted where we were. Now, our request has raised some questions, which I hope to answer tonight. The first concern was that we previously requested a square, and some of these concerns were brought forth by the mayor and sent to the aldermen. I think you guys may have seen them about a month ago. We previously requested a square foot reduction on the single family side. It's presented tonight by a song, and are now doing it again on the townhome side. It's an apple and an orange. We previously did request 16 of the 50 lots to be reduced. Those lots were specific, like as in lot number 1, 8, 7, and 12. This request was to help with the affordability during the time of a massive interest rate increase we recently experienced. The board unanimously approved was unanimously approved by both the PC and the Board of Aldermen. And we built 10 homes on those 16 lots. It was only 16 lots. We built 10 homes on those lots, 3 of which we built under 2,200 square feet. We found that the problem was not as severe. Interest rates and the market picked up. And since then, 7 more homes were built on those identified, so a total of 10. We did 3 small, and the other 7 homes were built in average 2,500 square feet. So, 10 of the 16 homes or lots are already taken. 3 of them were small, 7. The point here I'm trying to make is that we don't take advantage of the request. We weren't sitting here trying to game the system or do anything. We had a viable problem. Y'all helped us, get through a situation that, could have been really disastrous. The market picked up. We didn't expect it to. It did. And we've gone forth, as discussed. The next concern brought up was that our application focused on the impact to the smaller homes on the Chateau Ridge side and failed to discuss the impact to the larger homes on the April Springs side. Additionally, noting that the residents on the April Springs side spoke against the original subdivision application. Song brought this up, but I don't think most people recognize that this parcel in question was originally zoned multifamily. It was straight zoned multifamily. A bit of history on the property. We approached the city and wanted to build a multifamily project. The city preferred that we didn't. We got together as a team and worked out a mutual compromise. A PUD with both single-family homes and townhomes combined with a lot of common open space. We met multiple times with the city, working hand in hand to figure out how we'd phase it and how big each phase would be. Upon advice from the city, we determined the right way to do this was transition from the larger homes on the Alexander side to slightly smaller homes on the Cedar Bluff single-family side to slightly smaller townhomes on the private townhome side to the smallest homes, in the Chateau Ridge. So we basically gradually went from larger to smaller to that. This request doesn't change that transition at all. The residents on the April Springs side of the subdivision are the furthest away and least affected, if at all, by any change to the townhome section, as they still abut the homes that are 2,200 square feet and up. The section mostly affected was the townhome side and its proximity to Chateau Ridge, which is why that's the focus of our application. When the project was approved, the townhomes were set for 2,000 square foot minimum. The 2,000 square foot was my recommendation at the time. The size requirement did not come from the city. I made that recommendation based on anticipated sales and absorption. I am now making a new recommendation in light of the 4 years that have passed since that approval and the interest communities have shown in amenities. You've all seen it. I'm sure you've approved it. People are wanting amenities. It's kind of the new thing now. Our research has shown that the public would rather pay the same amount of money and get a slightly smaller house and obtain access to an amenitized community. While these aren't in any way tiny homes, we've all seen the drive locally to build smaller homes and provide more fun in our communities. Our focus here is to build a private, gated community with 100% lawn care. The HOA takes care of all the lawn care in both the common areas and the private yards. So it always looks good. We wanted to have a community with pickleball courts and a dog park, amenities that were largely asked for during our research. The fund comes at a cost, however, to the builder and the resident. That said, we believe the cost is worth it, as we'll gain more interest in our project by appealing to these buyers and can have confidence that the absorption will be there. I want to reiterate, we as a developer will spend more money building these amenities. We'll probably make less money on 1,800 square foot homes, but I feel going down the path we're currently on has considerably more risk. I've sat on these parcels for a year. I mean, they were approved a year ago. I've had forms up on a quad for 12 months, and I've not done anything with it for the very reason that I can't find a market for this, for the townhomes. So another concern was, why ask for a reduction now versus waiting to see how the market responds to the current size? As a developer and builder, we face considerable market risk. Many times the cost of failure is bankruptcy. We have to know projects will succeed, and we have to bake in countless caveats related to the economy, political landscape, material prices, weather, competition, and we have to make that guess 2 to 3 years prior to the point of actually building the homes. I mean, this project was approved 4 years ago, and we're just getting into this. I agree, building bigger is generally better and more profitable. I've shown that I've gone back to bigger homes in the single-family size because I make more money doing so. It's a better product. My bias would be to lead in that way, and I think I've proven that, as I mentioned, by getting approval to build the 16 smaller homes, yet only building 3 larger. That said, I see risk in building these townhomes at 2,000 square feet. They need something to punch them over the top and make them special. I've sat on this parcel, and I haven't been able to find enough data to support the demand for a 2,000 square foot townhome. I think we all agree this is the first one in Olive Branch, and I want it to be a blazing success. So rather than building a cheap 2,000 square foot home, which I can do, I'm currently approved for 2,000 square feet. 2,000 square feet, 1,800 square feet, that's not going to change whether a renter moves in there. It's not going to change that. You know, I mean, the townhomes are approved. But I don't want to sell it to another builder, and I don't want to do it cheaply. I want to make something special. So I came here, I wanted first to see if we could do something that created the excitement, momentum, and demand that we need. Thus our proposal for a smaller home targeting the same financially capable client. I believe there's a bigger market for a amenitized neighborhood than one without, and hopefully you'll see that way. Lastly, we walked a petition, which I have with me, through both the neighborhood of Cedar Bluff, all the existing homes, and some homes closest to the subdivision, just right outside the borders. We presented our request, much as I just have to you, to these residents, believing that those in the subdivision or bordering it would be the most affected by the change we're asking. We visited 25 homes in Cedar Bluff that we've sold to date. 18 people were home. 100% of those people signed the petition in favor of this request. We visited 15 of the closest homes to the subdivision. 10 homeowners weren't home, 5 were home, and each one of them signed the petition in favor of these changes. In total, 23 people, 100% of those that actually answered the door, were in favor of the changes. These are people and closest to the changes that will take place, and looked at those changes as favorable. In a few minutes, you'll be asking, you know, the audience if there are those in favor of this project and those who aren't. I just want you to remember that the 23 people that could have been here tonight signed a petition, and they are in favor of this project. I do want to address a couple comments that the mayor stated. One is, according to the land rolls, apparently Meridian is still on the, listed as owner. All I can say is shame on the land rolls. We have sold every one of the homes. Not a single home is rented. They are all sold to homeowners. So we all know that the land rolls take time. 2, we are the largest supplier probably in the city of Memphis of build-to-rent homes. I am not ashamed of that, and I feel like we do a fantastic job. As you guys know, we took over Goodman, and we turned that completely around. It used to be a cesspool. It is now in great shape. We built it. We know how to manage. We manage very well. Every single subdivision that we ever create, we put in a solid HOA, and I want to talk about that a little bit. You know, we talk a lot about these rentals that ruin the neighborhoods. What makes a neighborhood fail? What makes a neighborhood fail is a weak or non-existent HOA, and unfortunately, many of the communities around here have no HOAs. It was a failure, way back when. No enforcement of regulations, no penalties for noncompliance. This creates blight, which feeds on itself. The homeowners that care have no way of fighting the homeowners that don't. And whether they live on the property and don't take care of it, or whether they rent it out and do the same. Cities have been trying to fix this by governing from the top, creating rules that are distant from the actual problem. It's kind of like, having the school system tell you how to parent your own kids. All right, the problem needs to be solved, and frankly, in the subdivisions I've created and managed, has been solved by a strong HOA with teeth. Our CCRs and bylaws have architectural controls, so the quality and integrity of our designs are adhered to. Penalties that are assessed to any homeowner that doesn't comply with property maintenance or non-payment of HOA dues. And most importantly, the penalty for not paying HOA dues or causing problems is foreclosure. And we have foreclosed on many people. These bylaws keep both the homeowners in compliance, but also the people that decide to rent their property can no longer ignore the rules. Our CC&Rs require a large majority of the members to change it, so it's unlikely they'll be changed easily, which further protects the owners that purchase a home. I started building, and I started as a builder that did a lot of build to rent. I don't know if you guys have seen, but we have radically changed our business. Most of our sales now are retail sales. Okay, we still do have components. We still do offer rentals here and there. And, a lot of folks talk to me about, why do you allow rentals? Because the rentals we put in and the HOAs we put in don't cause problems. I mean, I've not sat before this board. I've not had complaints from the city. They don't cause problems. We don't have a lot of them here. I'm not proposing that the townhomes in any way, shape, or form are going to be rentals, but changing them from 2,000 square feet without amenities to 1,800 square feet with amenities is not going to change the rental factor in any case. I think it's going to make a much more powerful subdivision that will be easier to sell, will attract more people. We're mowing everybody's lawn. We're taking care of things. We're trying to attract a demographic that's going to be in there, an older demographic that just wants to, kind of get away from the homeowners, the lawns and everything else, live in a place where they can walk their dog, play pickleball, have a good time. That's all I've got, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. King. Does the board have any questions of the applicant, Mr. King?
I'm gonna make a comment. Y'all hadn't built any of these, right?
Correct.
So you're doing a market study just showing you that the smaller ones would sell better, right?
The 2,000 square feet is the absolute largest townhomes that I've been able to find anywhere in northern Mississippi.
Yeah.
You go to South Haven, you go anywhere, there's 1,600 square feet, 1,400 square feet, 1,200 square feet. 2,000 square feet's huge for a townhome.
Yeah.
So, I think that to be branching out in Olive Branch, doing this for the first time with a product and trying to do it that big, it's too much risk for me, and I don't want to do it. So,
Yeah.
My alternative is to sell it.
Yeah, I've been on the board a long time, and of course, it was a knockdown, drag out to get it approved the first time. And it's just hard to me to change the whole subdivision, when it was hard enough to get it passed the first time. Me personally, looking at it, both of them looks good. Your new one, I could see possibly if you had even combined it a little bit with the old one. If you'd left two of the ones and maybe did one smaller or every other one like you said, but I just, to change the square footage on this, you're really changing the whole subdivision. And you do have to exit all these other larger homes, that most of them, of course, nobody shows up tonight, but, they were very vocal the first time.
I mean, I think you've done good for the city so far, and
Thank you.
stuff you built, and, yeah, and I could almost, if you had a combination or something, you know, instead of just trying to blanket change the whole thing, you know,
The reason for this is the amenities and everything we're putting in come at a cost.
Yeah,
Right?
well-
And so we're trying to, you know, it's a 2,000 square foot boring subdivision, you know, townhomes with nothing to show, or it's an 1,800 square foot with all of these, and I can't take the risk of, okay, well, we gave it a shot, did 2,000, didn't sell any, you know, let me come back, and now I'm begging. I mean, I had started, I'm invested, and now I've got risk. I've got massive risk because I've got a failed project,
the
and that's what I'm
amenities you're
trying to
putting in
avoid.
is a pickleball courts, right?
Yes, sir.
And a dog park, I think.
Now, there's a dog park, pickleball courts that will be going in. It'll be completely gated. The form factor of the housing units are effectively the same. From the street, nothing looks, I mean, it's a much, you know, we're spending more money on the houses. The house, you know, the new elevation's fantastic. You can see there compared to the old boring one. We've got staggered fronts, which give it some curb appeal. You know, it's just a much, much nicer. We have 10-foot ceilings, right, in the first floor. We didn't have that before. I mean, these are, you know, kind of as nice as we can make a townhome. We're really trying to do something special here. And
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, everybody I go to and I say, yeah, this place is gonna have pickleball, man, I wanna live there. I like that. No, that's cool. We're gonna cut your yard for you. I like that. I mean, it's just been, it's been wildly popular, and it gives me confidence that we can start to make this. But, you know, hey, guys, your HOA fees, $400 a month, right? Oh, you know, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to lower their mortgage payment by a couple $100 a month, so they can pay the extra couple $100 a month for the amenity package. It's the same financial equation for the, you know, we're not
Well,
catering to a different demographic.
me personally, yeah, I like both of them, but, you know, just carte blanche change everything. I'd even, you know, if you even combined them and added amenities. I mean, you know, but you know, I'm gonna let somebody else talk. I've been on it a long time. I voted for a lot of changes on PUDs, rezonings and everything, but normally not voting on something had never even been built or tried, you know, to change it, the whole thing completely. But I'm gonna yield to another alderman or some other question. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. King, what's the difference in the risk now than it was 4 years ago? There's people selling, we can't build houses quick enough. There's, what, 11 subdivisions being built right now? Is that right?
Can you hear?
Is there about 11 subdivisions being built right now? We can't sell them quick enough, as far as the people. And if I get this thing any closer, I'll be eating it. I just don't understand the difference in the risk now than it was
It's,
4 years ago.
I've been building.
And homeowner association, I wouldn't live in one. I just can't live like that. However, there's people that like them. But I got no problems with people liking them. I couldn't live that way.
Yes, sir.
But I don't understand. There's always risk. Like, you know this. I mean, when you took over the other apartments, you assumed that risk and it worked.
Yes.
I don't understand the difference in this risk. We're talking about 200 square feet. That's not going to make or break whether it goes up or down.
I can answer that two ways. First off, with the apartments and everything else, I mean, getting into apartment complexes usually get approval, start work, and you're done in a year. I mean, it's the end is very close to the beginning, which, you know, we can all kind of look out a year. In this particular case, I mean, who knew that interest rates would skyrocket? I mean, we aren't selling houses like crazy. If you look at MAR, you look at anything, I mean, we are selling very, very few houses right now. I mean, interest rates have gone up even though the feds have dropped interest rates. I mean, they've literally gone up over the last 2 weeks. Nobody expected that. We have a higher mortgage rate for folks today than we did 3 weeks ago. It is a very, very difficult time for builders. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I looked at every home, so there's like 5 or 6 houses actually closed across all of the builders. It's hard right now. And to sit down and look at, you know, again, we're now at the forefront of starting this project, and I feel personally like it has a real solid chance if I can put some amenities in this thing and get it going. I can't afford to put the amenities and then add that on top of a mortgage payment and have somebody come in and have to pay, you know, $2,800, $2,600 to get into a 2,000 square foot home. You know, when they can go right over to the single family house and buy one of those for $300 less. I mean, there's gotta be something exciting to having an HOA and living in a townhome that brings it. And what's exciting and what we found is cut my lawn, take care of my lawn, common areas, give me some amenities, give me a dog park, I'll pay for that. You know what I mean? And that's what we're trying to do. The 200 square feet just brings that price point down a little bit, but they're paying the same amount of money. If you're worried about what the homeowner's paying, it doesn't change. They're still forking over the same $2,500. It's just more in HOA fees and less here, which is a good thing. I mean, that HOA is going to be solid and it's going to provide more fun. And we've got something in Olive Branch that's unique, something different.
Staff,
Mr.
let me
King, I
ask
have-
you a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. King, you said if this doesn't work, you might have to sell it.
Yeah,
So,
I
let me
just-
ask the staff, if he sold this property and he sold it to somebody and they said, okay, I'm gonna come in and build these townhouses, are they required to do everything he was required to do?
Yes, sir, unless you amend it.
So if they bought had to build a 2,000 square foot townhouse with no amenities, that's what they would come in to do, just like it's approved right now.
Yes, sir.
No changes whatsoever.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's correct.
Unless they came in and asked for changes.
Yes.
Yeah, unless they
Correct,
came in and
unless
wanted
they
to try
came
to
and
say
asked
something, yeah.
something different.
And Mr. King, I had a couple of questions too, if I might ask. It's certainly a developer's business whether they intend to rent or sell, but it seems to me at this point that your business does intend to sell these properties and not keep them to rent, or do you have a model where you want to keep some in rent, if you can share that with us?
Yeah, I keep it open in every subdivision. I've always done that. Our intent is to sell these to homeowners. I mean, a 10-foot high ceiling, you know, amenitized thing is probably not if I wanted to rent these, I'd keep them at 2,000 square feet and make them cheap and rent them. I mean, if I was gonna, that would be the best way to rent these things out. You know, why would I spend the extra money on all this other stuff? But you know, if somebody came and said, hey, I want to buy this and I want to rent it out, I would consider that. I believe that people have the right to rent homes, and I believe that people have the right to buy them, you know, but our target is a demographic that's going to come in and want these things. It's folks like myself, get out of you know, you're tired of cutting grass all the time, you want to get in and simplify your life a little bit. That's who we're targeting. That's what we're trying to do.
Do your current covenants or CCRs, have you developed those yet outside of
Yes,
the
sir.
amenities, i.e., are there anything in the CCRs that said an owner cannot rent that house? And
No,
keep,
no.
Okay. Would you have an objection to putting a clause limiting some of that in there?
I would, yes.
You would have an objection, or would?
I would have an objection to that. And again,
Okay.
I think this goes back to a lot of people do that. And I think personally, it's a terrible, terrible idea. I realize we're trying to protect our communities, but imagine you're somebody, move into a house, you live there, you lose your job, you're trying to move out, the market's crashed, and you're moving out to Wyoming for a new job, and now all of a sudden you can't rent your property. I mean, it is a right of a homeowner to be able to do that. And I have shown time and time again, and I've offered my services to the city as well. We can solve the rental problem, especially on new construction, with solid HOAs. I mean, there are rental communities, and you see them all. They don't cause problems. My rental communities don't cause problems. It's a solvable problem. It's very difficult to solve in areas where you don't have HOAs.
Let me ask you something about the HOAs. I was a president for 4 years in Plantation Lakes. At the time, it was the largest subdivision in DeSoto County.
we still have a strong HOA. There's a lot of places that had strong HOAs no longer have them. So an HOA is not the answer. Because HOAs fall apart when people move out. When they first start, you have a lot of interest and a lot of people take care and they participate. But over the years, those people are gone and the new people have no desire to get involved in it. So an HOA loses all its effectiveness. In fact, we've even had a couple where the president ran off with the money. And there's just nothing going on now with an HOA. It's no enforcement of the covenants, anything. So you're right, it works as long as you have the strong HOA. But once it falls apart, you're left at the mercy of everybody.
Yeah, no, that is certainly a possibility, and I won't deny that. I mean, some HOAs do fall apart, but I mean, you have to put the pieces in place and then expect the community to kind of, govern themselves. And, some do and some don't. But right now, I think our biggest problem is the fact that most places don't have an HOA. And the nice places that do have HOAs, like Plantation, I mean, they're doing a good job.
That was one of my questions in kind of relationship to Mr. Dickerson, because I agree that the intent's great and over time they do fall apart. However, I think with proper management and control, an HOA can work. Is your intention of your firm to be the manager and the overseer of the HOA, or are you going to turn that over to the homeowners?
Yes, we manage every HOA that we build, and that gives us a set of eyes. Of course, the homeowners can choose anybody, but we usually come in and we manage that. I know we're talking a lot about rentals, but and I realize it's concerning, but right now it's approved. And renters can go in there. I mean, the whole thing could be a rental community right now at 2,000 feet. So, I mean,
Sure.
The 1,800 square feet, 2,000 square feet, I mean, really has no bearing on whether rentals are going to move into there or not. I think what you might want to consider is if the thing had a really nice, dog park and a really nice pickleball court and gated gates and all these things, I mean, is that a community that's more apt to survive and have a community that wants to manage it well and an HOA that wants to stay tough, or a 2,000 square foot cheap community that has nothing in it? I mean, I realize rentals are on everybody's mind, but it's approved right now. It's already approved. The rental piece isn't going to change. What's going to change is it's going to be a nicer community, and that's what I'm trying to bring.
And I don't disagree with you on that. I think the rental issue to me is not so much the HOA that's spotted here and there. I like the fact that if you were to manage it and it were approved, the fact that you have some control in it, because that keeps it from falling apart. So that was one of the things I was concerned about. One other last question I had was, would you be open to limiting the number that you downsize rather than wholesale? Could you make it work if you said, hey, I'll do 33 of them, half of them, rather than 66?
I'd be open to phase one, the first phase being 1,800, and the second phase staying as they are at 2,000. That would give me the first phase to test the market. If things go very well, then great. I mean, I could probably transition into larger homes in the second phase. If things don't go well, I'll be back. But I'd rather do it that way, because the market's very, very tough right now. Interest rates are very, very high right now. And I can always stop after one phase. I mean? If I get through one phase and it's not working, I can end.
How many are planned in phase one? 32, it looks like?
I believe that's the case, yes.
Okay.
It's about half.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
No, I'm gonna follow back up with what you said. I understand about the homeowners association, but he answered you that homeowners would choose that.
Mhm.
Yeah, who the homeowners, I would hope you would keep it. I think you automatically do keep it till half of them are sold, right?
Usually it's 90,
Usually something
95%,
like that.
yeah.
Again, I understand what you're wanting to wholesale change it all, but I'm not gonna, I can't support that. I mean, if you would do a combination or something like that, I would be more open to it. I'm not sure even at this time, without you even building anything. I've even for it, but I could understand that more. And if you added the amenities and changed, but, I'm really just talking, I'm really not answering you anything, because I think you've answered what you think you need and for the, to sell them and stuff. But,
Well,
I mean,
Mayor, is this a public hearing where we have the pros and cons? For
Are there any residents here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition of this proposed change in square footage? If you'd like to speak on the behalf of the applicant or in opposition, please come forward. Anything else from Mr. King? If not, thank you, sir.
thank you.
Any motions or discussion from the board?
Mayor, I'll tender a motion if I might. Given the track record, because I too, when Mr. King first came to our community and started the apartments on Goodman and several other areas, I had some concerns about apartments and things like we do, but I have seen a proven track record of quality and management from Meridian Pacific, as far as I'm concerned. Given that track record and the fact that he took the time to go to the residents of Cedar Bluff and the community outside of that and got a pretty good response from the doors he knocked on, and that the HOA amenities are something that's appealing if I were to move into something like this. I would tender a motion to approve his request, but only for phase one, and let him test the market to see if it works for him, and the opportunity may come back where he builds the other ones larger, and it may not, but I'll tender that motion to approve the request only for phase one.
Are you making the motions for the smaller size in phase one, or you want the larger size in phase one to see if they will sell? You want the smaller size?
Smaller size.
Okay,
Well,
motion
he's
before the
asking for
board is
reduction of 200 square feet per unit.
okay, to 1,800 square feet for the first 33, phase one, and the full 2,000 square feet for the second
Correct.
33, phase two.
Correct.
Any questions?
The planning commission also had another condition, which was the substantial completion of the amenities prior to certificate of occupancy for any unit in the third townhouse building. Is that also part of your motion?
Yes, I will
Okay.
support that.
Motion.
one question.
Go ahead.
What is substantially completed mean?
I'm going to defer to a song. That is word for word from their staff report from the planning commission.
It's somewhat subjective, I would say. The bo-
If you build two townhome groups, two quadplexes, they would not approve a certificate of occupancy for any unit in the third complex until all the amenities are done. So basically, we're gonna get three started. If the first couple start selling, by the time we get to the third, we can't sell any of those without the amenity package being completed.
So would you agree that the word substantially could be eliminated from the condition?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what's right up here, certificate of occupancy being issued for any unit in the third townhouse building is probably the clearest way to
Okay.
state it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any additional questions or input from the board? The motion before from Alderman Earhart is to approve the first phase of 33 at the 1,800 square foot amount, and the second phase, the other 33 at the 2,000 square foot, and keeping in the requirement that certificate of occupancy will not be issued until the amenities, i.e. pickleball court, dog walk trail, or whatever that may be, not issued until to any of the third townhouse buildings until that's built. That's the motion before the board. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Dickerson. Roll call vote, please.
Aldridge. Yes. Collins.
No.
Dickerson.
Yes.
Earhart.
Aye.
Hamilton. No. Wallace.
No.
With the tie vote,
Yeah.
Mayor breaks the tie.
Tie vote, I would vote no on that motion. Are there any other motions? Hearing none, this item is closed. This item is closed, no agreement. Next item, please. New business, consideration of application for the second revision of the Goodman Crossroads subdivision to divide Lot 1, 1.779 plus or minus acres into Lot 1A and 1B submitted by Mike Davis. The Reeves firm, on behalf of Michael Rozier, member of the RM Olive Branch LLC. The subject property is zoned C2 Highway Commercial District and is located at the western end of Old Goodman Road East on the south side of Highway 302. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Aldermen. Before you is a request to consider a replat of the Goodman Road Crossing subdivision Lot 1. So to kind of locate where we are in the city, this is Walmart. You just come up to the bypass Highway 302. You come over here, this is where you've got a city park and Pet Suite. So this is the subdivision where you have Pet Suite. Lot 2 was approved, platted for Homer Skeleton dealership, but no building yet on that particular piece of property. Pet Suite, of course, is operational. And the subject property that is proposed to be subdivided into 2 lots is Lot 1, currently 1.78 acres in size. The state law does require that in subdividing property of this nature, the owners of other properties in the subdivision, in this case Lot 2 and Lot 3, be in the know. They were duly notified. There has been no opposition to the subdivision of this piece of property to create these 2 lots, 1A and 1B. Lot 1A will be 1.15 acres and Lot 1B 0.629 acres. Now there is a TVA easement to the west of that piece of property. The applicant is intending to, or the property owner intends to sell these 2 lots for the development of 2 commercial uses on 1A and 1B. The plat before you, as you see on this picture, you currently have, this is a public street. These drives, internal drives, are all private. Lot 1 currently has access to that internal drive. But once it is split in this way, Lot 1B will not have access unless a cross-access easement is provided through Lot 1A into Lot 1B. So that is what that cross-access easement is needed for. The plat before you for consideration currently does not show that cross-access easement, and there is a requirement that it be added on the plat. There is sufficient buildable area outside of the TVA easement once those lots, if those lots are platted as requested. This is a subdivision plat. This hatch out area, that's where you've got the TVA easement. Detention facilities are not required on this lot. This subdivision was developed with regional detention. So you have one stormwater detention area at about this location for all the 3 lots in this particular subdivision. The Planning Commission reviewed this application at its meeting on October 8 and recommended approval unanimously, subject to these conditions 1 to 6, which are pretty standard, including, as I did mention, the need to revise the plat to show the extension of the private egress easement northward through Lot 1A to reach Lot 1B. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Assam. Board, any questions on this staff report?
Yeah, Song, I had a question, please. As it currently stands in C2 and without subdividing, does it meet our criteria for C stores at this point?
it would meet the signalized, this Lot 1A, Lot 1 will meet the signalized intersection requirement. It will meet the no more than two, no more than two, it's actually a T intersection, so no more than one convenience store at a signalized intersection. But of course, you have the other subjective criteria,
Yes.
such as, public safety. That is a pretty tight intersection. Some improvements have been made to this intersection, which, if these were proposed for a convenience store with gas pumps, it will have to go through a conditional use
Yes.
permit process before the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and that can be appealed to you for a final decision.
Correct. And if this were to pass and be subdivided, that would not alter, in your opinion, what you've just stated as far as C-store requirements?
Mayor, in terms of the lot size becoming very small, it's hard to put a C-store with gas pumps on less than an acre. This may do, but with the TVA easement here, that also significantly reduces the buildable area. It's tough. It's hard to put a C-store with gas pumps, with a canopy,
Right.
and the building itself, provide enough parking, landscaping. It will be tough on that particular site.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Good evening.
Mike Davis with the Reeves Firm, 6800 Poplar Avenue in Memphis. Purpose of this is because the developer has two restaurants interested on the property, and they can coexist with these lot sizes. And we're in agreement with the staff conditions. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions of the applicant?
You don't have to have a name of a possible tenant or buyer, do you? That you could share?
Not that I could share.
Okay.
Not a C-store.
Not that long-awaited Cracker Barrel, I guess.
We wouldn't object to the large crosses that MR does as well. That'd be a pretty good location for one, but a lot of good things could go there. You're right.
Yep.
Any other questions from the applicant or on this application? Thank you, sir.
Sure.
This is not public, is it? No. Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Dickerson, second by Mr. Wallace. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, consideration of application for a preliminary plat for the Camden Grove subdivision submitted by Greg Russell, Civil Source LLC, on behalf of property owner Michael Burns. The request is to create a subdivision of 30 residential lots and 5 common open spaces from 20.4 plus or minus acres. Subject property is zoned R30 and is located on the south side of College Road, just across from Dawkins Farm Drive. Mr. Song?
Before you is a request to consider a preliminary plat, so this is preliminary not final, for a piece of property located south of College Road between Highway 305 and Craft Road. So this is Dawkins Farm to the north, and that piece of property is just directly south of Dawkins Farm Drive. This is a preliminary subdivision plat. The board's review of this is essentially ministerial. It is not a rezoning. There is no rezoning action involved here. There is no Project X amendment involved. And important to stress this, so as I did mention, this is a preliminary plat, and the purpose is to create 30 single-family residential lots and 5 common open spaces. So these areas shown here in green, this will be common open spaces. You have 1, 2, 3, which is Crescent Boulevard entrance, 4 and 5. Common open space 3 will have a gazebo, that is the amenity that the developer is proposing. The streets will all be constructed with curb, gutter, and sidewalks. Under the city subdivision regulations, any lots or subdivisions that subdivision would be aligned with the main entrance into Dawkins Farm. The subdivision will not be connected to any of the adjoining subdivision, such as Mitchell's Corner or any of the subdivisions that are closer to this site to the east. There will be no interconnectivity. The character of the subdivision is essentially suburban, as called for in our comprehensive plan. So the lots are essentially, they have large front yards, side yards, as required in the RKT overlay district. You have a lot of green space provided. You have buildings, and then those large 5 open spaces, and then abundance of trees. That is usually what characterizes suburban development of this sort. Currently, the site has a lot of trees, and to really maintain that suburban character, it's important that those trees are brought down. There should be some replanting to create kind of a neat, close community. With respect to this element of character, what is proposed to be developed on this particular site and on this subdivision in terms of lot size, minimum 16,000 square feet, will be very similar to what you have in the portion of Dawkins Farm to the north. So this area in Dawkins Farm, the lots are essentially 16,000 square feet. That is the way the houses are built. This is really what you will have on this side. The difference, I would think this is necessary to go into Dawkins Farm. It was clear cut, everything graded, there was all the vegetation, no trees were replanted, almost like what we tried to avoid in the villages of South Branch by requiring that those trees be replanted to create a more suburban community. Very important to stress one thing here, namely, the zoning ordinance, Article 3, Section 3 stipulates that when property is annexed from the county and brought into the city, that property maintains its zoning classification prior to its annexation from the county until such time that the city rezones that property. So in 2021, that was when this property was annexed into the city. Since then, the property has not been rezoned. As such, the current zoning of the property is TR30 overlay. In our zoning regulations in the city zoning ordinance, there is no R30 overlay. So the zoning provisions or requirements of this particular property are still those in the county's zoning ordinance, where the R30 overlay exists. Per those stipulations in the county zoning ordinance, an R30 overlay site has to be minimum 3 acres in size. The subject property is 20.4 acres, so that minimum requirement is met and maintained. The uses that are permitted in the R30 overlay are essentially single-family detached homes, and you can also have single-family attached homes like townhouses, subject to certain criteria. For example, each building has to have at most 6 units in other criteria. What is proposed before you, this will be detached single-family homes, so that particular criterion is met. The maximum building height is 35 feet. Maximum building height of these homes will be 35 feet. That particular requirement is met. The maximum density in the R30 overlay is 2.0 dwelling units per gross acre. Gross acre includes the areas that are will be used for things like streets, stormwater management, basically the entire site as it is today. What the developer proposes is 1.47 dwelling units per acre, so that requirement is met. Lastly, no, that is not the last. Those are the last not shown on this slide. The minimum required open space is 10%. The subdivision, Camden Cove proposes to have 14.45%, and as such, that open space requirement is met. The last criteria, for some reason, is not shown on this plan, which is very important, is the lot size. The minimum lot size requirement in the R30 overlay in the county's regulation is 16,000 square feet, not 30,000 proposed in this subdivision is 16,003 square feet. So it meets that minimum lot size requirement. This is conventional zoning, it is not a PD. As such, there are no requirements for minimum house size. The applicant will talk about that if you want to have some discussion on that. In terms of subdivision infrastructure, utilities, water, sewer. Sewer is currently available. This is this line here in green, that's a sewer line. It will be the responsibility of the developer to extend that sewer line into this subdivision. The lines here in yellow, those are gas lines, available within the vicinity of the property. Duisburg Water Association provides water in any of these lots. We need to have water provided. The International Fire Code, Section D, 107.1, adopted by the city, stipulates that you cannot have more than 30 lots if you will have one entrance. So the moment you go above 30 lots, you need to have two entrances into that subdivision. The maximum number of lots does not exceed that there. So this meets that particular fire code requirement. Regarding next steps, upon the approval of this preliminary plan by the Board of Aldermen, the developer will have to submit construction plans to the city engineer for review. Once those plans are approved, the developer will have to view all the infrastructure, water, sewer, the streets, street lights very important, the stormwater management infrastructure, all of that will have to be constructed. And then the developer will have to submit a final plan, which will be reviewed by the planning commission, recommended to you for approval, and recorded before the lots can be sold. So the approval of the preliminary plan does not permit the sale of lots. The subdivision infrastructure has to be constructed and the final plan approved and recorded before the lots can be sold. The planning commission did approve this plan at its meeting on October 8th, subject to a number of conditions, 1 to 9, 10, and to stress condition number 5, that the final plat submitted and the draft declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions will need to be customized for this particular subdivision and submitted together with the final plat for review. It is in those covenants that certain restrictions can be placed with regard to the development character relating to things like housing. And the planning commission did recommend that there should be a design requirement for 2/3 of the facades to be masonry brick in this particular subdivision. You need uniform mailboxes and requirement as garage doors will not face the street. That should be included in the covenants and restrictions. So that was a recommendation from the planning commission. Post office is currently requiring, that has been a requirement since 2018 when the feds adopted that policy. That in these new subdivisions, you need to have all mailboxes in one area instead of having each of the lots having their own mailboxes separately. So that is being provided in this subdivision and in this particular area right here. To maintain that suburban character, it is also recommended that the developer shall plant 3 street trees in common open space A31 and 1 tree in common open space C33 along College Road. And because all this side is going to be clear cut, all through graded, the trees that are there brought down, at least 1 tree should be planted in the street frontage of each lot. So basically, 3 trees planted in this area 1 year, which will kind of mirror what you have across the street for Dawkins Farm. Dawkins Farm has those trees planted to maintain that suburban character. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Asal. Any questions, board?
Mayor, I got one.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick one. Andy, I know he's talking about tying in the sewage into the pipes across the College Road, but I know we've had problems with flow down from it, like in Bell Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
And the last developer that was wanting to extend the neighborhood on out required him to increase the pipe size, I guess, to allow for it. This, being only 30 lots, that's not gonna have any effect on that, is it?
Greg, you may want to
I don't know whether you've looked into that closely or not, as far as how that's gonna tie in. I remember we did have some discussions about it, and I think we are gonna try to tie to the north, is that correct?
Greg Russell, Civil Source, 2696 Donwood Circle North in South Haven. I can sit back there and yell if you'd like, but the sewerage, there's a ridge along the north third of this property. So the north third of this property where gravity to College Road, the balance of the property to the south, there would be a lift station on E35 that will pump back up to that ridge, and it would flow back into College. We looked with city staff at several different options on that sewer. The sewer lagoon that's to the south is a private, it doesn't belong to the city, it's a private company. And there is no other access to sewer except on College Road. We looked as part of the overall annexation sewer improvements of extending city sewer from the south up to the southwest corner of this property so that we wouldn't have to put in a lift station. But that is not economically feasible, especially not for the developer, but we determined it was not economically feasible for the city to complete that either. So that's our plans for the sewer. There is no other access to any of the adjacent properties to provide any kind of utilities or access or anything. It's kind of almost a landlocked scenario of a piece of property.
Alderman Wallace, as far as being able to tie in this number of lots to the north, that should not be an issue.
30, but if somebody wanted to develop further, 6 months or 5 years from now, something would have to be done, correct?
Well, absolutely, we'd have to look at, and every time we add something to see what the impacts would be. But there has been, as far as this number of lots, there's not gonna be an issue. That, I think that continues to flow north, and then there's a pump station, and it goes over to the area that you're referring to.
Right.
But I don't think, there won't be an issue here, but there, again, this hasn't been totally designed, but I know we had, like Greg said, we had talked about different scenarios with this and how this,
Okay, I
how
understood
this
it's
sewage
like,
might end up.
I know like 30 lots shouldn't, but
Right.
I know we'd had problems in the past over there. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, also, if I may add, there are improvements to the city sewer system as part of the annexation sewer project that I have worked on in the past also. So there will be additional improvements in this area by the city.
You're talking about along Dunn Lane, correct? Along Dunn Lane? to the south?
There's some on College also, I believe.
Yes, there is, but the ones we talked about was going south on Dunn Lane and where it could possibly tie in.
Yes,
that
yeah,
direction.
we talked about extending that from Dunn Lane up to the south part. That was the only way that could be serviced was from the south.
Right.
Greg, let me ask, this common open space, is it flat? Is it gonna be used by the homeowners or?
There'll be some of it that is used, if I may, D34 and D35. D35 will have a detention area on it. The
Okay,
property,
detention area.
C33 will actually be a active area for the residents.
Yeah, they'll be able to use that. The others are detention areas.
Mhm. And that will, where he's pointing now, D34 will have to clear some of the trees off of that, but there's a drainage area that comes through there. It'll be available for use. There won't be any improvements to it, though.
And for my information, if you look down the left side of the development, why do you go 1 through 8, got 36, and then 10, 11 off of them? Why you got 36 there? I mean, I don't know why it's not 9, 10 all the way around. I just wonder why you got 30.
The short story is I didn't catch it.
I just,
There's a long story to the way that program works, but I didn't catch it. I have no other excuse.
George's been doing a lot of counting today.
I was sitting there, you got 1 through 10, but got 36 in there.
Painting by numbers.
Greg, I got one question, on the plat we got up here, it says community mailboxes. Now,
Yes.
the, conditions on the second page says you have uniform mailboxes. So how do you have uniform mailboxes if you got one community mailbox?
That'll make it uniform. It won't be but one.
It won't be but one, okay.
Yeah,
All right, okay.
yeah. No, that's required. So they'll be uniform, but just won't be but one.
Very, very uniform.
And I would say too that at the last minute, we added the gazebo in conversations with the staff.
But they
Don't
count-
hold me to that design. That was my engineering mind. Gazebo to me is always 8 sides. It could be a rectangle, it could be something, but it'll be something for the community. I told a song that engineers think in parallel and perpendicular lines, and that's it. I'm not very creative when it
Any
comes to
additional
architectural
questions?
stuff.
Any additional questions?
I guess for clarity, we're gonna have one uniform community mailbox?
Yes.
Okay, and where will that be located?
On that common open space, right at
Right,
that corner
okay.
where his pointer is right now,
Okay,
at the northwest of 22.
all right.
And correct me
Or
if
you
I'm
gotta
wrong, I
have a
believe.
excuse me. I was gonna say, you gonna have a pull-off area there? I don't see it any wider.
I didn't, it'll be the mailbox will be set off of the right-of-way, and there'll be a little apron poured right there so that they can pull off.
Okay, all right, it didn't show it.
You won't have to stop in traffic.
No, but it didn't show it, that's why I was asking.
Correct.
Mr. Dickerson, do you have a question?
Well, I think that community mailbox is required now in these subdivisions
Yes.
by the post office.
Yes, sir. I was just making light of it.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't give them any choice, I don't think.
Any additional questions? Thank you. Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Motion, please. Mr. Wallace, is that right?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented with the recommendations from the planning commission and the staff.
Motion to approve as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Collins. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Public hearing date for consideration and action on motion declaring the condition of the following property to be a menace to the public health and safety and directing either the city staff or contract labor to clean the property forthwith. It's just the one, is that right? Okay. End of Road
Yes, sir.
LLC, 7920 West Sandage. Any questions? It's a public comment item. Is anyone here to speak for or against this lot being declared a menace? The lot is 7920 West Sandage. Seeing none, any questions or motions from the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Dickerson. Is there a second? Mr. Collins, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, consideration of action on motion determining the actual cost of cleaning the following properties, determining whether to assess a penalty and to declare whether the debt will be collected by civil suit or placed as a lien on property taxes.
And Mayor, this is the annual process that the city has done through the years. The recommendation, as always, is that these be added to the tax roll as an ad valorem assessment. The amounts that are shown will be shown on the tax bill for 2024 taxes, and the vast majority would be collected in the ordinary course of tax collection, January, February time frame. There will be some that are not collected in that time frame that would presumably be collected later in the tax sale, but the vast majority of the amounts assessed by the city for costs and penalties are collected. There periodically are a few outliers that once those tax bills come out, we could conceivably, we've had this happen through the years, where you have maybe a purchaser during the course of 2024 that there was a notice issue perhaps, and we may hear of that, and we'll deal with that as those issues arise towards the end of this year and the beginning of the next year. But it's the recommendation of code enforcement and planning staff, and my recommendation as well, that, Mayor, that that the board assess the cost and penalties and collect it as a ad valorem tax in the ordinary manner. The lists are shown on your screen. The vast majority of those are privately owned. And then a song, if you've got the list that's the list right there that are owned by the state of Mississippi. And the state law does not allow the assessment of a penalty against state-owned lots. We will turn in those costs to the state, but unfortunately, there's not a readily available source of state funding to make the city whole. But we will attempt collection of those amounts from the state of Mississippi, but there will not be a penalty assessed against the state, and that's a statutory restriction, Mayor. But it's our recommendation that the list as shown on your screens be approved and added to the tax rolls.
Thank you, Mr. Dye. Any questions or motions?
Make a motion.
Collins motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Earhart, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries. Next item is consideration of your approval for polling place agreements for municipal elections. Mr. Dye has some additional information, but Ward 1 will be moving to Compel Church. Ward 2 will be moving to St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church. Ward 3 to Redeemer Church, the old Fairhaven Baptist Church on 178. Ward 4 will move to the lobby of Municipal Court. Ward 5 to the Great Commission Church, and Ward 6 to the Cumberland Presbyterian Church. The goal of these moving the wards is simply for parking, our residents getting in and out on election day. We're very appreciative of our churches that have agreed to do this for us, even with, with us paying a small amount. It will not start until the municipal elections, of course, in 2025. And as we get asked about these things, I know we want to make sure that people understand it does not impact the county or the presidential election locations, especially with presidential election coming up on November the 5th. We want to make sure no one thinks that their polling place has changed. This is for municipal elections only. Anything else to add, Mr. Dye?
Only that these agreements, the reason they're coming to you in this timing, just to sort of put this in a larger context, the board has set a public hearing for November 5th, where the public will have an opportunity to have input on these polling place changes, as well as the addition of the recently annexed property into Ward 5. That public hearing will take place on November 5th. You may see that advertisement in the newspaper for the next 3 weeks. I do not recommend that the board adopt a redistricting polling place ordinance that night. I recommend that we receive any public input that's provided, and that on November 19th, the board would adopt the ordinance that would establish polling places and add the recently annexed vacant property to Ward 5. That property's vacant. There's no voters affected by the addition of that property to Ward 5. The reason this item's on your agenda tonight rather than later, it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. What you do not want to do is adopt an ordinance establishing new polling places until you had a written agreement with the owner of the polling place that we could use that facility. We would be in a bad time crunch if we inverted the order of this and redistricted and established new polling places and then had one of these agreements fall through. So we're approving the agreements tonight if the board is inclined to do so, and then we'll continue with the public hearing and the adoption of the ordinance in November. And then Tina, with the assistance of the circuit clerk's office, will send new registration cards, polling place cards to the registered voters in the December timeframe in advance of the election season starting in 2025. So Mayor, with that, I recommend that the polling place agreements be approved as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or motions? Motion to approve by Collins, second by Hamilton. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I think our residents will love the parking and the accommodations. I really do. And it won't interfere with our fire operations as they go in and out of the fire facilities that's been used. So think it's a win-win overall. Number two, consideration of adoption of resolution of the governing body of the city awarding the sale of City of Olive Branch, Mississippi General Obligation Recreational Improvement Bonds, Series 2024, in the aggregate principal amount of $3,600,000, directing the issuance of such bonds, authorizing the preparation and distribution of a final official settlement in connection with said bonds and for related purposes. This is the hotel motel tourism tax, going toward our soccer fields that we talked about. I think y'all approved last meeting, I believe it was, that the 2 full soccer fields, 2 practice fields, restrooms, and 405 parking spaces. This is a bond to actually make that happen if you approve it.
Yes, Mayor, this is the last board step in the process. So today, this afternoon, we opened bids. We had 6 bids that were received from various institutions wanting to purchase the city's bonds, which was strong competition. The lowest net interest rate that was submitted was by an entity, Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated. The interest rate was 3.780077. Now, to put that in context, our municipal financial advisor says that the city should be extraordinarily proud to have received that rate. He says that there are very, very few, if any, counties or municipalities in the state of Mississippi that have recently received rates that are in that range. And he says that's a testament to the strong financial condition and credit rating of the city of Olive Branch, and the city received a rate that reflects that. So that's very positive news, very strong interest rate, and a lot of competition from various bidders. And so in your brown folders tonight, you had an updated bond resolution that includes the lowest bid amount and the bid amounts of all bidders, as well as paying agent information and a copy of those or the selected bid in the back. And that was in your brown folder. And so, Mayor, the recommendation is to approve the bond award resolution reflecting Baird as the awarded bidder.
Thank you, Mr. Dye. Any questions, board?
That's the payment schedule.
Yes, it is. Principal amount, it reflects the principal amount and the interest rates that's applicable each year. And so what you do is you calculate the net interest cost over the term of the bond.
Any other motion to approve Dickerson? Is there a second? Aldridge, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. If the board's okay with it, we'd like to take 3, 4, and 5 together, but then vote on them separately. So Andy could just present this at one time. 3 is consideration of recommendation for final change order number 3 with Lehman Roberts for $26,738.47, increasing the contract amount from $1,072,583.42 to $1,099,321.81. Accept this project as complete and authorize final payment in the amount of $249,163.75. Item 4, consideration of recommendation to approve final change order number 3 on the contract with Lehman Roberts Company in the deductive amount of $5,581.55, decreasing the contract amount from $863,791.47 to $858,209.92, and accept the project as complete. Item 5, consideration of recommendation to approve change order number 1 on the contract with Vance Brothers Incorporated in the deductive amount of $33,391.17, decreasing the contract amount from $1,351,240,000 to $1,317,848.83, and accept this project as complete. Mr. Swims, anything to add?
Just that the number 3 is actually the part that pays for the asphalt overlay. Number 2 is actually patching. That's what that contract is for. And number 5 is actually for pavement preservation. So those are all, the first 2, of course, is with Lehman Roberts, and the third one is with Vance Brothers. And this is the final change order request for all 3, and we do request approval for these adjustments.
Thank you, Mr. Swims. Any questions, or is there a motion to approve Item number 3.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Hamilton, motion to approve item 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Earhart. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion on item 4?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Earhart, motion. Second, Mr. Wallace. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Collins, motion. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Aldridge. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to leave regular session with the intentions of going into executive session to discuss items 1 through 7?
Moved.
Mr. Wallace, motion. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are out of regular session. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matter in the ambulance department, personnel matters in the fire department, personnel matters in gas billing, personnel matters in gas maintenance, personnel matters in the police department, personnel matters in the sanitation department, and acquisition of property discussion with city attorney? Is there a motion to go into executive session for those items?
So moved.
Mr. Earhart, motion.
Second.
Second, Mr. Dickerson. All in favor? All opposed? We are in executive session.